I'm David Hunt. My guest today, oh, he's so talented. He has done so many things. The limos that were out the front, we had to roll the red carpet out. Get ready for it. It's a little bit precious. No, he's not. I'm joking. Multi-talented though, an Australian with over 20 years in the business, and he's only 25, so he started very young. In entertainment industry, creative, producer, actor in film, TV, theatre, podcasting is rearing its head as well. Openly gay man. Oh, well, that's good on a show like Bent TV. That's good to know. Some shows. Oh, I won't mention the shows now that you might know him from. Oh yeah, I'll mention this one because it was such a wonderful universal show, Secret Life of Us. Did anyone watch it? I did. I absolutely loved it. And it was filmed where I live, all around St Kilda. So there you go. Spencer, hello.
Hello.
What an amazing career you've had.
Having, David, having, please. Come on.
Oh, true, having. But we were talking off camera that, how tough it is at times, but we'll come back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up in Sydney, what was that like as a kid?
So I grew up in Western Sydney, in Auburn.
A bit tough.
Technically, not that I really remember, the first 5 years were actually in the UK.
Oh, okay.
Outside, in the Midlands, in Birmingham.
Right, well, because your surname is, it's got is it Scottish?
Yes, Scottish heritage. My mum's British, my dad's Australian, and the surname, being the way it comes from his side, just Scottish originally. But they met in the UK and got married there, and I was born here, but then moved back very quickly there for the first 5 years.
So you got dual passport?
I do have dual passport, okay. And I married an American. His mum is American with an American accent. He was born here, but has American citizenship that way. Right. So, and then we moved to Sydney, which is where my dad was from, and my grandfather lived there. So we moved in next door to him. So grew up there from sort of like 5 to 13.
Did you have a British accent at that stage? Were you picked on at school, or?
I think I was deemed, yes, kind of sort of well-spoken. I didn't particularly have an accent that I recall. I don't remember that being a thing, but I certainly know as I grew up, not that I was really picked on for it, but I didn't have a very strong Australian accent. And my brother, who was technically born in the UK and is, therefore, we're both UK citizens now, he was born there. He sounds more Ocker than I do.
Also, western suburbs of Sydney, it's pretty much, Australian accent would be the forefront there as well.
Yeah, it? Certainly. And, at that time, it was, we had Greek neighbours, which was Auntie Dulcie and Dulcie and Emmanuel, who we were great friends with them, and their kids. So they were Greek, and then we had a lot of new Lebanese families moving in to the area as well. So it was really going through a bit of change at that time.
Great.
But our Greek neighbours were, "G'day, mate." So they certainly were not any kind of language barrier or anything like that. They were. I actually don't know, but they must have been born because they had really full-on Aussie accents.
Right, okay. And school, how was school?
School was tricky, to be honest. I mean, at that point, I was in Sydney until I was about 14 or 15, then we moved to Melbourne. But during that time there, we went through a lot. Like my parents got divorced when I was 11.
Oh, okay.
I went to an all-boys high school to start with. Primary school, I kind of just remember primary school was fine, no dramas there. The sexuality was not on one's mind in any way, shape or form. And then high school, I went to an all-boys school to start with. Didn't have the best time there. Partly a number of things. I had an instant new stepbrother, didn't like that experience, it's a bit weird. So then I moved to the co-ed school in the same kind of area, and went there, and then was there until we moved to Melbourne. But yeah, that was all right up there. I wouldn't say it was a joyous experience, kind of year 7 and 8, but it wasn't harrowing.
Yeah.
Wasn't overtly picked on particularly in any way or about anything. And again, hadn't really, at that point, started thinking about sexuality in any way, shape or form that I was aware of.
As a teenager, yeah?
When I got to Melbourne, which was year 9, so sort of 15, I think around there, it's really when it sort of started. And I started out when I was here at Werribee Tech. So we moved to Werribee. because
Well,
my
that
mum,
would have been the country then.
that
I
it was,
suppose.
yeah. So we laugh a lot. I lived in Thornbill Drive, and there was like one house and just plots of nothing, and a house and plots of nothing. And you go back now, and there's like, these humongous trees and things like that, and it was literally just farmland.
Yeah.
But it was, my mum had opened a business up in one in the city and one in Geelong. So she said, oh, that's the middle, we'll go there.
Okay, right.
Knew nothing about Melbourne.
Yeah.
So we came down and moved there. And that was, I guess, the first time I started to think about it, I guess happenstance, whatever they call that. I ended up with my group of friends from that school. Three of the boys actually, we hung out with, out of four of us, all were gay in the end, but none of us, I think, particularly said that or knew that at the time.
Okay.
We just had an affinity for Madonna,
Right.
as one does, and had a good time. We were kind of not the cool kids, we were just like the nerdy kids over there, and so you kind of went, okay, we just did our own thing, and that was fine. And then I moved, the whole family moved from Werribee over to Blackburn South, so a big shift from the west to the east.
A bit of movement in your life.
I went to 6 high schools in the end.
Whoa.
Which is a bit...
That's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, you know what? It's one of those things that I was just used to, and it got me... So at that point, I think that was my 4th high school, and that was the point when I kind of went, I'm sick of getting new friends all the time. So I kind of went, whoever I meet here, I'm just locking them in, because I just went, it's just... It gives you a great skill at meeting people quickly.
Yep.
And you're great in a room, you can talk to anybody, all that sort of stuff. But then when you want to go beyond that, you don't have a lot of experience there, because after a year they're all gone. So you don't have a history, you don't have a shared heritage in any way. And so getting to my friends in Blackburn South, when I went to school there, when I sort of found my gang there, we are all still friends to this day, and we get together. There's 4 or 5 I see quite regularly, and then there's about a wider group of us, about 12, that always have Christmas together, have a big Christmas party with all our partners and everything, and do all of that. But it was a conscious choice to kind of go, I'm missing what everybody else has, which is this, we've known each other since primary school, this long history. So I thought, I'm just going to lock it in. Even if I move again, I'm staying connected. So we didn't, we moved to Surrey Hills, which was not very far.
Yeah.
So that was fine. So I could stay connected there.
Right. At school, had you thought about a career path? What were you thinking?
So I was an exchange student between year 11 and 12. And before I went on that, during year 10 or 11, one of those two, I did the High School Musical.
Oh, okay.
And kind of went, I'm going to say it must have been year 11, I think. And I just went, oh, this is great. This is for me. I love this. This is fantastic. And my mum was a model for years, and my dad was a singer for years. So it wasn't a completely foreign world in that sense.
Yep.
They were neither of those things when we were growing up, but the history and family history was there. And I remember enjoying that. And then I went to America as an exchange student, and sitting in the office with my host dad, I think it was at that point, and signing me up for classes and things. And this music teacher walked through, and she said, oh, you've got to join the choir. And inside I went, oh, what a great idea. And I went, oh no, I can't do that. She goes, no, you must. And she just kind of pressured me and went, oh, okay, fine. and so I did, but it was a show choir, like on Glee.
Right.
So we literally did state competitions, went everywhere, choreographed. It was amazing. Her name was Denise Backadutri, and we're still Facebook buddies. So, and I've kept in touch over the years, because she really inspired me to think about a career. So then when I came back from there and went to finish year 12, I was doing maths, science, English, that was my focus there. But while I was doing that, I did 3 amateur musicals side by side, and then started dance training as well, because I was kind of I'll get HSC or VCE as it was then, but I'm going to go and do this. And that really kind of kicked me into thinking about it as a serious kind of career, but definitely theatre focused.
Well, you did, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Where did you end up?
Yeah, so I went from there. I got very frustrated for a little bit, because I was auditioning for things that didn't have much luck. And then the first show I got into when I was 19 or 20 was, that's not true. The first musical I did, but I did lots of touring with Disney, like playing Aladdin, and inappropriate now, obviously, for cultural reasons. But back then it was just a bronzer, and off you went.
Yeah.
So I won't go as far as to say I did blackface, because that would be weird. But lots of stuff with Disney and with Mickey and Minnie and doing their kind of shows all around Southeast Asia, all around Australia. It was fantastic.
So you fell into that from school?
I fell into that out of school.
Wow.
And then from there, auditioning for musicals. The first musical I got was West Side Story with Marina Pryor and Caroline O'Connor. So that was
big names.
Big names. That was an amazing experience and really life-changing. It's one of those things for me that I go, there's a few things in my life, in my career that have left an indelible mark. That's one. Secret Life, you mentioned before, is another. And the other one, which I did straight after West Side, was Beauty and the Beast. And that also, I did that for nearly 2 years. So, I did Cats, West Side Story, Beauty and the Beast, Sun and Park with George. About 5 or 6, I did Footloose at one point. So a lot of big musicals that toured around and did. I went over to UK at one point and toured around with bits and pieces over there. And then I kind of decided during that part of my musical career that I didn't know enough about acting. So I'd been working with Ian Judge, who was a famed Royal Shakespeare Company director, and they used to call him the Poison Dwarf, because and he came out and it was during West Side Story where the kernel of the idea to go to drama school sort of was birthed, because he came out as very intimidating, and everyone said, oh, if Ian, is rude, just don't worry about it, And I was understudying Tony in that show, and I had gone on the week before and he wasn't there, and he'd never seen me. He hadn't cast me because I came in mid-tour for them. And he literally walked in, looked me up and down and went, 10 years, and walked off. And I just kind of went, is that it? And he was just this kind of, dismissive, super camp little guy. And I just kind of went, oh, well, piss off sort of thing. And he really responded to that kind of, just kind of standing up and taking your space kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so we became good friends after that. And just realized he's just a lot of bluster, but ultimately he's very good at what he does. So I didn't know that I had a language to communicate on an acting perspective, certainly musically, certainly dance-wise. It was an unknown world to me. And so I decided to pursue, some years later when I was doing Beauty and the Beast, to pursue drama school. And I was working at that point with Hugh Jackman, and he'd just come out of Whopper maybe a year before he did that.
And for those that don't know Whopper, it's in
Western Australian Academy of Performing Arts.
Yep.
Yes, it's one of this country's premier drama schools.
Very well known.
Yeah. And he was very encouraging of that. And I was also working with Rachel Beck, same show, and she had encouraged me to look overseas, because there was a couple of Shakespeare courses you could do over at Oxford or RADA, which is the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. So I formulated my plan and went, okay, I'm going to audition for the Australian schools. If I don't get in there, then I'll go to London and go to RADA. That's my plan. So I came out, and I will say when I was 19, I'd auditioned for NIDA and had no success. They said, oh, you're too young, come back later.
Yeah.
And by this point, I was 24. And so I'd forgotten about that idea until I'd worked with Ian Judge and those people who went, oh, okay, this needs to come back on the agenda. And at that point, I'd spent 5 or 6 years touring in professional musicals. And so I just went along and auditioned for Whopper, NIDA and VCA, and got accepted into NIDA. So I went there.
Whoa.
So
and tell everyone, what's NIDA?
So NIDA is the National Institute of Dramatic Art in Sydney.
In Sydney, yeah.
So
and probably the most famous.
It would be the most famous,
Yep.
certainly, yeah. It's, Whopper has some great graduates as well, and but NIDA, I guess, has
The
those.
prestige, it's very prestigious, isn't it?
Yeah, and NIDA has the kind of the shiny baubles of people like Kate Blanchett and Baz Luhrmann and Mel Gibson before he went off the rails. So they've got some great alumni there. Sam Worthington, and it's an astonishing place. Like the building infrastructure is crazy. And they have a great alumni project as well. So, everyone stays connected and all that sort of stuff. And it is an amazing place. And it is one of the best things I think I ever did. It was 3 years.
Okay. In a way, it was a step backwards.
You could look at it like that, I guess. But for me, it just felt like it's what I needed to do, because a bunch of people sort of said, why do you want to do this? Including Tony Knight, who was head of acting at the time. And I said, well, this is why. I don't feel like I have this skill set. I have this and this and this, and I'm not confident in this area.
Yeah.
And I think they often say that the students will choose themselves in the audition process. And looking back with hindsight, I kind of understand what they mean now, because I had such focus and purpose. So I was like, this is where I'm going. This is not a, you know, so the idea of the rounds where you get cut and called back, I was like, it's fine, they'll be reading my name out. And they did, and I went, great, perfect, good. You know, and it was just, I just had such confidence, you know, about it, and was, you know, very few times in my life have I had that. But I think it is that searing focus that they can't ignore, that they just go, there's something here. And so, yeah, I got accepted into that. And it was the best thing I think I ever did for my career.
And what about stepping out of it once it was over? Where did you go?
Coming out of NIDA.
Yep.
So that's its own harrowing experience.
Because what do you do next?
Well, yeah, it's tricky. And you kind of go, all right, do I go back to musicals? What do I do? And I think I didn't have an agenda, except obviously I wanted an Academy Award and to be on Broadway, you know, all the big ticket items. But you kind of wait and see what the industry sort of says, you know. And I very quickly got taken into a role on Home and Away for, which is about 6 months I did that, where I married Sally, if anybody remembers Sally. We got married, well, we nearly got married. We're at the altar. And then I was cheating with Gypsy, so Alf ran me out of town. But it was interesting because because it was Sally. It was such a high profile event. It was like covers of the TV Week and all this sort of stuff. It was like Australian soapy, you know, chaos in that sense. So we did that.
So you would have been known in England in particular.
Yes, and it was kooky because in the middle of the 6 months that I did shoot, it took a hiatus and changed channels in the UK.
Oh, okay.
So it sort of extended the life of that period by about another year. So it kept going. And I was like, okay, there's a lot of exposure over here. So at one point I went and did the traditional UK panto over there and, you know, toured around doing that, going, sure, I'll come over and do that. That'll be fun. But it was shortly after that I auditioned for Secret Life of Us.
Was that a groundbreaking moment for you? Was it that well known when you stepped into it, or was it right at the beginning?
Secret Life?
Yeah.
It was the very beginning. And I've just been doing, you mentioned the podcast before, it's 25 years since Secret Life of Us. And I'm doing a little series of them to celebrate that, which is next year.
Brilliant.
And just 3 days ago, I was talking to Claudia Carvin and Deb Mailman about auditions and process and all that sort of stuff, and what we all felt at that time. And it was completely unknown, obviously. You know, it's a new show, but it was completely different.
And did you get the feeling that this is something special?
You did. Like, you read the scripts and went, these are very different.
Yep.
You know, they're very authentic. Yeah. They're very raw there, and it celebrated that beautiful chaos of being in your 20s. You know what I mean? And we were all in our 20s. And I remember by the time I had auditioned, because they'd cast the role, but the chap who they'd cast then got offered a job on As the World Turns, that soapy in New York, big American soapy. Okay. And he ended up doing that for 10 years. So good choice for him. Yeah. Gave me an opportunity. Because I hadn't auditioned for the show originally because it clashed with Home and Away when I was there. I couldn't. Right. So I went, oh, well, let it go, sort of thing. So, but then it came back, their dates had moved, he'd moved off, and they said, do you want to audition? I went, yes, because I'd read the scripts and went, these are fantastic. And at that point, Claudia Carvin was attached, who was a big film star at that time. And, you know, film stars, you know, for us everywhere at that time didn't do television. So it was a big shift, you know. So she was attached, Deb Mailman was attached, and she was so funny. She said, I just wanted a job, you know, like, relatively unknown, didn't know what I was doing. I said, Deb, you'd already won the AFI for Radiance. What are you talking about? You know, little green girl off the street. I said, come off it. Like, you know, but she had a great profile. Yeah. Joel Edgerton was sort of, you know, emerging as a real kind of up and coming star. And you had Abby Tucker, who's straight off Heartbreak High. So the DNA of that alone was huge. And there was a lot of focus on it. So you kind of went, oh, wow, this is crazy.
And who did you play? What was the character?
I played Richie Blake. And it was a fascinating experience because in the pilot, ultimately he's the queer character, and there were a couple of others as well, but he was certainly the one that led the charge in that. But in the pilot, he wasn't. Oh, so we shot the pilot, which is a 2-hour special. So if you ever watch season 1, it's still around on 7+, I think. It's still there now. Those first 2 parts were the pilot. And he was basically me. He was an actor, you know, well, living with his girlfriend, which was not me, and trying to find his way in the world in St Kilda and having a rough time of things for various reasons, him and his relationship, which was with Abby Tucker. And then it was after we shot the pilot that they sat down before they went to series and said, we want to bring some queer representation into this. And they looked at all the characters and said, well, where would we put this? And it seems to land here on this character. That makes the most sense out of who was, you know, sort of there within that. And so I remember, because of the nature of the union at the time, they were changing the nature of the character. So we had to have this meeting about it all. And I was not out. I was, you know...
yeah, because I was going to ask.
No, so at that point, I wasn't in. Interesting enough, in my theatre experience, I never had to come out because everyone just assumed and it was fine. And by that point, I had partners and a boyfriend and whatnot. I'm about 25 at this point. But I certainly wasn't out publicly, and I wasn't out to my family, and I didn't really...
Could have been a dangerous moment. You know, like
it was
being
quite challenging
on television.
It was quite challenging, and I know that my agent knew. Like we went and had the meeting, and they said we'll go away and discuss. I did find it quite threatening. You know, this is going to ruin my career.
Yeah.
You know, what will it do? And I had to just take a moment and breathe. And I looked at it and kind of went, if I was a straight man, I would play this in 2 seconds because it's important, it's groundbreaking, and doing that. So that's what I latched onto and said, this is about the story, not about me.
Yep.
I'll deal with the me thing as that happens.
Yep.
But as an actor and as an artist, this is something that needs to happen. So sat down, spoke with her and said, let's do this and we'll work it out. And that's what we did.
And it was just so accepted, wasn't it?
Yes.
You know, like, and I think because the show was so loved and filmed in St Kilda and but yeah, like I didn't feel any you know, like sort of, oh, he's the puffer.
There was no back. There was none actually, to be honest with you. Like, I mean, we didn't have social media, right, back then. So there may have been someone somewhere, but it didn't exist. So didn't have it. I didn't feel any of that vile hatred or anything like that. None of that existed at all. So that was wonderful that didn't happen. It was odd because, you know, you start getting put up for Cleo Bachelor of the Year and you've got to answer questions about, you know, what do you like in a woman? And you're like, great shoes and a hat, you know? I'm like, what do you say? You know, and you're trying to tread that line and go, I don't know what to do here. And interestingly, for the first season, the producers didn't know. We didn't tell them either. Yeah. And it's the wrap party. I had a date after the wrap party. And I said, I've got to go, I've got a date. And they're like, oh, what's the name? I went, John, got to go, bye. They're like, what? And I was like, do you really not know? They're like, no. And I was like, oh my God, guys, come on. Whoa. So, you know, that was quite funny coming out to them at the wrap party.
You've done so much as well, you know, like films as well. Mm-hmm. But then you got into producing. You know, why?
I started producing theatre first, and it was really just out of frustration, I think. Not getting an opportunity, and it's not that like someone else necessarily, sometimes someone else would get the job and you go, that's frustrating, didn't get it. But a lot of the time I just kind of went, there's nothing here that I want to be in, you know? So I'm going, does that mean there's no career here? Yep. So I thought, well, let's just put something on then. You know, you can't just complain, go and do something, you know?
I agree, yeah.
So the first piece of theatre I produced, outside of drama school, because I put a musical on at drama school because I wanted to do one, was Fully Committed, which is a one-man play where I played, I think, 45 characters.
Wow.
In at the Athenaeum in the city.
Yep.
And producing that and doing that nearly killed me because it was just, it's so much. You're on stage non-stop for an hour and a half and then getting up in the morning and doing the media and then checking the ticket sales, booking the ads, you go, oh God, I'm going to die. But, you know, you do it. That's what you do.
And did it go okay?
Yeah, it did.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
You know, I mean, I certainly didn't get rich off it, but, you know, recouped its money, paid everybody, got a little boost. I was like, great, that's good. That'll pay for the recovery, you know, that I need afterwards. So I did that. And then a friend of mine who I'd met, I did go and live in the UK for about 4 years after Secret Life.
Because it was big over there too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was co-produced by Channel 4 in the UK.
Okay.
So I went, as soon as I finished, I went straight there and did a bunch of theatre stuff and things over there. And I just eventually went, my home is here. It's all very good, I'm working over here, isn't it great? But no one I love is seeing it. Yeah, you know, I went, I really want to come home. So I did. Which
is a gutsy move because, you know, like England's such a much bigger place. And the fact is you were known from 2 TV shows.
And I did another one over there called, it was on Channel 5. It's a soapy. I can't remember what it's called now. But I did that for about 7 months, playing a gay character actually.
Right, okay.
So, and it was my partner on that who then later said, oh, I've got the short film I want to shoot. So I was going to go to LA and do it. They gave me this quote and I went, that's outrageous. You're not doing that. Come to Australia and do it. We'll do it for half the price. He's like, really? I went, yeah. So we did. So that was the first short film I produced.
Okay.
And then I met the director on that who we booked. Her and I then went on to produce our first feature. Well, she'd done a feature, but my first feature, which was Surviving Georgia, which I put together with Shane Jacobson, Pia Miranda, Holly Valance,
Whoa.
Caroline O'Connor and me. And that was my
Whoa.
first real foray into producing a feature.
Yeah.
You know, and that was probably just under $1 million it cost at the time to do that, which is in 2010, was it, or 2014, one of those. Anyway.
Well, hard to get that? Yeah, like it's nothing these days, but back then.
Yeah, look, it wasn't that bad because Kate brought some, and then I'd been teaching, and I had this wonderful student who I'm still friends with now, Peter Gillingham, if you're watching. Peter, hi. And she said, oh, I've got money, I can help. And I just went, oh, okay. And she very generously did. And that was fantastic. So that helped, and then a little bit of support from what was Film Victoria then, now Vic Screen, to help with finishing funds. And then we made a sale to Channel 10. So that helped. So all of that sort of came together and we cobbled together, you know, what was the budget.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but that it was hard. Again, I catered that. So my friend Steph, who was my housemate at the time, she was a chef. So on the weekend, she would cook everything. We'd load it in the truck and we shot in Warburton.
I love that.
And yeah. And so we'd go to Warburton and everyone was put up in this like school camp with bunks and everyone was staying there. And I'd get in the mess kitchen at the end of the day and going, right, hi everybody, here's bolognese, you know. And then he'd be up making breakfast and then he'd go, right, I'll be on set in 20, going to makeup. It was crazy. I will never do that again. That is just like, you do it once and go, okay. And then you go, there's better ways to do this.
You did move into the big league in a way.
Oh, look, the middle leagues, let's go there. But yeah, I've produced 14 features.
Whoa.
And a series called Dive Club for Netflix. I've also then continued to produce theatre, like I think it's about 18 months, 2 years ago now, we did Midnight, the Cinderella musical, which was with John Foreman, Kate Miller-Heidke and Anthony Costanzo wrote the music.
I saw it. It was wonderful.
So that continues to evolve at the moment. It's licensed to schools everywhere. I think we've got 20
excellent.
productions in the next 2 years happening,
Excellent.
which is great. And we're looking to sell that into the US at the minute. So that continues.
Okay.
And I still have a passion for that. But it's all hard raising money. And the bigger they get, the harder it gets. You know, and it's very competitive. Like you've got some very big producers here in that space. You know, Michael Castle Group, John Frost and Crossroads. It's, you know, and they book up the theatres, you know, rightly so. They've got product coming from Broadway. So, you know, you've got to find your little niche.
It's a bit tough right now as well. Like some of those big productions aren't, you know, there's not the bums on the seats like there should be.
No, and it's been interesting to see the tickets become more accessible. There's a lot more $75 offers going out, right?
You see it all the time.
But oddly enough, the average ticket price has risen. You know, like when you get your balance sheet from the sales report, they've gone up over the years. But you can see there's a lot of heavy discounting, and then the people who still want to pay for the best seat will pay a bit more, and it kind of gets offset. But the ticketing has had to move to be affordable with offers, and you've got to work harder and get them out all the time. People just don't. It's a lot. It's a lot of money.
And the general public don't understand how much time and effort and the sets, the costumes.
Look, some of those shows, you know, like if you were building MJ the musical from the ground up, that would be a $20 million capitalization. Now, I don't know how long you'd have to run here for to do that. It won't be far off with, it's probably at least half of that because they'll be importing the set, I imagine. I don't know, but I imagine they're bringing an existing set, doing that, which happens a lot with the big stuff like Beetlejuice. You know, I don't think they built that from scratch here. It's the one that's gone on tour. So there are assets that run around, right? So you don't have to pay for that necessarily. You've got to pay rental, but it's generally paid for itself on its first incarnation or something. So that helps a lot. But you've got massive marketing dollars you've got to put into it. And then, you know, you've got something like 60 or 70 staff that have to work for 6 or 7 weeks before you even get $1 in the door. You've got to pay for. And then every week that payroll rolls. It's like $500,000 a week to you know, or more in some cases, to be paying everybody. And, you know, you run for 6 months here. Look, do those numbers. It's crazy.
You're not stopping because all of a sudden you've got a podcast.
Yes.
Why are you doing this to yourself?
I had nothing to do, and I thought, well,
nothing to do.
Nothing at all. No, not true. The podcast space is really fascinating. Like like we've alluded to, it's become harder and harder to fund films in many ways at the level I'm sort of working. So I've been actively going, well, what else is there to kind of scratch the itch and do? And while we continue to try and make those projects fly and work and what model might work for those, you know, I started listening to podcasts. Podcasts are everywhere now. And I just went, this is a really interesting space. And all the media networks have gotten into podcasting. And for me, I looked at the things I listen to, like something like Smartless or the Alec Baldwin podcast, those kind of things. I went, no one's doing that for Australian talent. And I'm very aware that there are no quotas on the streamers right now to mean they have to make Australian content like there used to be for 7, 9, 10, and that there. So the amount of Australian content being made is dropping dramatically. The cultural shift is we just consume so much American content and we don't hold up our own as stars and, you know, artists. They don't get the exposure. I thought there's a chance to do that, one, and then I just want to chat to all my mates, you know, and get them in. And so, you know, the show's called McLaren Versus, and it's not as adversarial as it might sound, but it's the point of difference is, I guess it's like an access all areas opportunity to get inside their lives because we know each other.
The thing is, you know, the general public want to know all that.
Yeah.
They want to know about the person behind that actor.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's fascinating is, as an actor, you get 3 minutes a lot of the time, and that's all you get. And you've got to push a show, talk about ticketing, this, that, and you get a little bit of, you get the razzle dazzle, that's it. You never get a chance to really hear them speak, you know, and the podcasting world has done that. And so these are normally 45 minutes to an hour if it's, you know, worth extending that long. And it's been fantastic. Like it's like Shane Jacobson, Pia Miranda, Eddie Perfect, Murray Bartlett from White Lotus, talking to him about a whole range of stuff. Christine Arnoux, Marina Pryor, moving on to Daniel McPherson, Nancy Hayes, Caroline O'Connor.
I can't believe you've remembered all the names.
I know, I'm just good. There's a list. And as I said before, we're doing a 4 or 5 little ep series to celebrate 25 years of Secret Life, which is uniquely,
such a great
which
idea.
is going to be fabulous.
That's going to be wonderful.
Yeah.
So what's it called again?
It's called McLaren Versus. It's Apple, Spotify.
And of course, that's your surname.
It is
as well.
McLaren, like the racing car, you know.
This has been an absolute pleasure. Absolutely delightful chatting with you.
Oh, you're welcome.
What a great interview, hey. And I'll be back again next month. See ya.